What's up, guys? Welcome back to Newswave. So we're back after the small Christmas vacation yesterday. Had some fun, hanging out with the family, exchanging gifts, and eating some pretty good food. So let me know yesterday if you're celebrating Christmas, what you ended up getting, or maybe you gave to maybe your kids or nephews, nieces, whoever. Let me know what you guys all got and everything for Christmas, especially if you got a system, because I remember back when I was younger, getting a system at Christmas time was amazing. Big time moment there, hype moment, I should say, for any of the younger gamers out there to get that system that you've been wanting all year. Today, though, we still have a bunch of stuff to go over despite it being Christmas yesterday, because there was what appears to be a PlayStation Network leak, at least something we are aware of that we probably weren't supposed to be aware of, and it's on the PlayStation Network, and that is Final Fantasy VII Remake getting a demo, possibly? Some sort of demo. Also, Patapon 2 popped up as well, but a demo for Final Fantasy VII Remake. So we have to go over that, including the file size and what it compares to the full game. So a lot of exciting stuff there. Then also, AMD looks to be ramping up and getting ready for a CES reveal for some video cards and some of the technology probably going into the PlayStation 5 and the Series X. And then also, Bluepoint. They're still teasing, but it seems like their announcement's actually coming pretty soon. As always, guys, if you enjoyed these videos, make sure you hit the like button. It does help out. It really does. And you guys have been liking it quite a bit, and the videos have been actually doing better because of that. So I do appreciate you guys hitting the like button down below. And if you're new here, make sure you subscribe so you can keep up to date on all the gaming news going on in the gaming world. We're actually going to start today with Shin Megami Tensei 5 because everyone keeps asking, what happened to that game? If you remember, we found out about this game a long time ago, like, right, when the Switch was being unveiled and shown off with a bunch of games. That was one of them, and it was like a little cinematic trailer, sort of, that was thrown together. No gameplay or anything like that, but we still saw it, and people got really excited. Well, it's been a while, and all we keep hearing is that it's in development, almost like they want to keep reminding us. And it looks like they are doing that once again. In Famitsu, several Japanese developers are kind of putting out New Year's cards, and one of them was from Atlas that pretty much just states, hey, it's Shin Megami Tensei still in active development. Well, that's good. It's good to hear that it's still in active development. I would like to assume that 2020 is the year for this game, because then it would have been in development for years now, and I assume they at least had an idea and a plan and maybe some work done before they showed it to us, but it's almost seeming like that's when they started any kind of development on it, was that, like, that cinematic trailer was the first thing, and then they were like, all right, guys, let's get to work. Oh, and heads up for anyone who did get a new system yesterday for Christmas, or maybe you got some gift cards or some money and you want to go spend it. It appears that GameStop is running a pretty serious deal in-store and online, and I assume the stores are going to be pretty crushed over this deal. I guess it's going to be probably pretty busy there, but they're doing a buy two, get two free on all pre-owned games, so you get 4 games for the price of 2, so I gotta make sure you pick out, ones that are like the same price, basically, so you get, because they're probably the cheapest ones are free, I assume, but it sounded like people were getting real excited online about this, because as they started to go through, they realized they could get some of the newer games that are pre-owned, and then you can apply other discounts, and people were getting some wild discounts and games for super cheap. So it might be worth going on the site, kind of browsing around and seeing what they have there, or maybe stopping by, especially if you're someone who, like I said, just picked up a system and you're looking to get some of maybe the back catalog of it. Although at this point, my backlog is getting massive and this isn't going to help it any. We also had a bit of a tease, I guess, from Nintendo that turned out to be nothing. It was a tease for what seemed to be a new Splatoon game of some kind. They posted this to their Instagram, and it just reads, "The stars from Splatoon and Splatoon 2 are staying fresh even if it's frosty, but where's Marina?" And people immediately started freaking out, saying, wait, is she going off to do something with Splatoon 3? Is this a Splatoon 3 hint on Instagram? Well, they posted on Twitter kind of a zoomed out shot of that same scene, and as you can see here, she was just taking the picture, and that of course had fans kind of disappointed, and a lot of them said, well, we know, what you're doing there, right, with that Splatoon tease. I think Splatoon 3 would be a next generation thing. Like, I think they only need one Splatoon game per generation, so I mean, they've built on it for a while. Could they do a Splatoon 3 for this Switch as well? Yeah, but then they're gonna have probably people playing on Splatoon 2 and 3, and they kind of split up the community at that point. I thought they would have supported the first or the second one, the one on the Switch, Switch longer. I thought that would have gone like the entire length of the Switch itself, but hey, I mean, we'll see. Maybe they really do have plans this generation, although I thought they were working on Animal Crossing, so well, maybe it is a next-gen thing. I mean, again, I think one Splatoon per generation for Nintendo is fine. And guys, with some of the quick news out of the way, let's get into the bigger stuff. Let's start with Final Fantasy VII Remake, because I have been predicting a demo at like every state of play since they started doing state of plays. I thought a demo was going to be announced by Sony at one of them, and I feel like I've almost willed this thing into existence at this point, because what we found now is Gamestat actually updated with a couple of listings that were brand new, not announced, and it caught us all off guard. Patapon 2 was announced previously, but it had been missing since 2017. It's been a while, like 2017. So years it's been now, where they're going to remaster, I guess, and put it on the PlayStation 4. It was going to pop up at some point. But Final Fantasy VII Remake demo? Well, that also popped up. In fact, we have a full like title screen, card, everything for this, and it just came out of nowhere. It was just updated, and everybody started freaking out, because that means that we could, I guess, at any time get a Final Fantasy VII Remake demo, and that's now what we're all trying to figure out. When is this going to drop? There was, of course, theories and speculation that maybe it's a Christmas Day thing. They're going to just already have a scheduled tweet set up and press release, and it's going to be like, hey guys, you can go try the game out right now on Christmas Day. Well, it appears that did not happen unless it was announced overnight or something, and now we got to figure out when, because the game is out the first week of March 3rd on the PlayStation 4, and then it looks like it's going to be up a year later on other platforms, but for now, it's going to be between, I guess, now and then, although I guess they could also release the demo on the same day that it releases, just to see if anyone wants to try it and then buy in. I think this is a great way to market leading up to Final Fantasy VII Remake, and we've seen Square already kind of do that with other games. Now, once we found out about this listing that popped up, well, here comes the people data mining and checking it out, and we had a list of files here, and you can see it does say Final Fantasy VII Trial. Now, we're trying to figure out if that's like a timed thing, or if that's just them saying trial instead of demo, for example, just different word choice for it, but it is 10.2 gigabytes in size. Now, the full game for part 1, of course, who knows how many parts there's going to be, but the full game that we're looking forward to is 73.7 gigabytes in size. So this is a small chunk, and of course there are a lot of things that go into that, whether it's textures, audio is usually pretty large. A 10 gigabyte demo, that's a pretty big demo, right? I mean, it's hard to say what it's going to be. I kind of think it's going to be what we've seen at E3, right? Where it's the beginning and you fight like the scorpion balls kind of at the end. That is sort of what I'm leaning towards here, but I am really excited, especially if this thing drops in the next week or two. The fact that it's already kind of up tells me I think it's going to come out in January, possibly the first half of January. I don't know if it's going to be a state of play announcement or something like that. I think one day Square is going to take to Twitter, announce that this demo is hitting the PlayStation Network like that week or even that day, and then it'll just be live. It's a free demo. You don't really need to build up hype to it. It is the tool to build up hype to your game. The real question now will be, is this going to carry any information over? It probably unlocks something, maybe. I don't think it's going to be like Dragon Quest XI S, where you played like the first 10 hours of the game or something, and then you just continued onward. Although that would be pretty cool if we could get a head start on the game. But exciting stuff there. Let me know what you guys think about this, and when are we going to be able to finally play Final Fantasy VII Remake, something that was announced back in 2015 at E3. When are we finally going to get to play it, starting with the demo? Let me know. Next up, let's talk about AMD at CES 2020. Now, CES takes place January 7th to the 10th, so it is coming up pretty quickly now, and we're starting to get, here's some information, some rumblings about different companies and what they're going to show. But now we have quite a bit of speculation and information around AMD, and it does pretty much line up, I think, with what we're already figuring is going to happen. However, a source that has been correct pretty much constantly about AMD, it seems to be that they are going to be showing off their newer video cards based on RDNA 2, and they're going to be showing off cards that have ray tracing built in at a hardware level, and that's what a lot of people have been asking from AMD so that they can compete much better with Nvidia, and it looks like they're going to show up with some enthusiast level cards, something that would be in the above $500 range, we'll say, that would go head to head with something like the RTX 2080 or the 2080 Ti, and a lot of that has to do with AMD recently anyway, targeting the lower end market with their first generation cards with Navi, and now I guess maybe just getting things all set up with their roadmap that they've shown us going into 2021 with some serious cards. Because trust me, Nvidia needs it bad. They need competition like crazy right now with their high-end cards because they're just kind of hanging out. They've joked that they can release more cards if they need to, that they don't really seem to think of AMD even as competition for their high-end stuff. So they've kind of been just messing around with AMD at this point, and they even showed a slide the other day in one of their presentations where they talked about how their 2080 is above the next-gen systems already, which of course, those are AMD-based, which is another reason why a lot of people are expecting AMD to show up at CES 2020 with a whole range of cards because, well, what we've heard that's been described in the Series X doesn't exist in AMD's lineup at all yet, and we know they're using AMD, so they have they have been able to use AMD's technology that has not even been put out there at this time. So that's exciting stuff for Microsoft and I assume Sony, who has access to very similar things from AMD. But it's going to be exciting, I think, going into CES for people who are really into video cards and kind of the battle between NVIDIA and AMD, because generally when they do clash and it's more competitive, that means we get cards that are more affordable. Next up, let's talk about those Famitsu sales charts, since this past week is generally like the biggest week of the year, like straight up, this is it for the most part, because of course you're going into the holidays right at Christmas, but it all kind of comes down to now. And we're going to take a look at the top 10, and you're going to see quite a bit of jumping around, some big sales from a couple of different games, and of course the systems. But we'll start with the top 10, with Pokemon Sword and Shield at the top, 288,199 copies. That is up 24%, so big jump there. Cruising up now to 3 million copies in Japan alone. So yes, Pokemon Sword and Shield are going to report some massive numbers when Nintendo tells us all about the overall performance of their holiday at the end of January with their investors briefing. Luigi's Mansion 3 had a pretty big jump of 63% up to 78,903. Then we had Ring Fit Adventure, which is pretty much like within margin of error. We've heard, of course, that they have been supply limited at times. Then we have Mario and Sonic at the Olympic Games, Minecraft, Fishing Spirits, Mario Kart 8 Deluxe, Super Mario Maker 2, Super Smash Bros. Ultimate, which is coming up on 3.5 million copies, by the way, in Japan alone. Again, insane. And Super Mario Party continues to sell well, and I'm really frustrated with Nintendo on that one. That is up to almost 1.25 million copies. I'm frustrated with Nintendo on that one because it has sold exceptionally well, and Nintendo has not done anything to really update it with new boards, or like that's the game that needs the updates. Like, it's great that Luigi's Mansion 3 is getting like paid DLC, and we see Cadence of Hyrule getting a free update. Mario Party is the one that needs it. Like, I don't get this at all. It's selling really well. You figure Nintendo wants to keep that momentum going with some new boards, or maybe they would do paid DLC. I'm more concerned that they are just going to make a sequel and never do anything with this one in terms of updates. And moving over to the hardware, we have the Switch at the top, 291,485. Big jump even from last week, which was already at 236,000 units. That is a little bit down from last year. However, the year-to-date is much higher now by almost 1 million units overall for the year, and that does bring its lifetime to date over 11 million units already, and it has not even been 3 full years for the system. It is, I think, going to get very, very close to 3DS numbers, depending on what else they do with pricing down the road over the next few years, especially the back half of the Switch's life. Then we have the PS4, which had a humongous jump, by the way, up to 107,000 units. That is very, very big, which is interesting because we're going to also talk a little bit more about the software here in a second. 3DS, 3,316. The Xbox One was at 226, and the PlayStation Vita was at 38. So while the consoles were like sold really, really well, if you looked at the software, the top 10 were all Nintendo games. That's kind of the trend we're probably going to see going forward, at least over the course of this next year coming up, I would say. The PlayStation 4, of course, on its way out, and the fact that software for the PS4 generally doesn't chart that well in the top 10 anyway. Usually we see like 1 or 2 maybe. It seems to always be Nintendo stuff, and this is the biggest week for the most part at retail in Japan. We'll see, I think, a pretty big the week after next week, somewhere in there, because of course after holiday shopping that gets crazy as well. But yeah, it looks like the Switch just took over Japan in the holidays. Nintendo did once again, and these sales look insane. I'm going to be very curious what Nintendo reports at the end of January at their investors briefing, because we kind of heard rumors that it had passed the Xbox One. I think that's pretty straightforward. I believe it has, like in lifetime already in less than 3 years. And now I seriously think Nintendo might be setting their sights on like the 3DS and then maybe even the PS4. So interesting stuff there in Japan, and we'll see what the Switch has for us at the end of January with Nintendo. And guys, with our last bit of news, let's talk a bit about Bluepoint Games, because they have been teasing nonstop whatever this game is they're working on. We have a bunch of theories, but let's take a look at their last tweet. Of course, it was Christmas themed, but it does seem to point to an announcement soon. This is what they had to say. It was the night before, excitement mounts in stealthily wrapped boxes, creatures stirred for announce. Hope for adventure and victory spread, visions of heroes enhanced in their heads. We sprang forth to play, exclaimed at the sight, happy gaming to all, there'll be no sleep tonight. This was actually posted the 25th of December, so Christmas Day, almost midday, almost noon Eastern. It says 11:30 a.m. Eastern, so this wasn't necessarily talking about Christmas Eve. This was on Christmas, and it made me wonder if, like, was there going to be an announcement Christmas Day night? Or would there be something coming up at the beginning of 2020? Maybe like a PlayStation experience of some kind, maybe a big blowout for the PS5. That I think is very possible, and I think that's where Bluepoint is going to show their game. And now, of course, the speculation continues to mount. I think we're mostly down to either Demon's Souls, or Legend of Dragoon, or Metal Gear Solid. Those seem to be the leading 3 right now, and people are pulling from this as well. I think this is them just saying, hey, we're probably going to announce this thing soon, so get ready. And it's something for the PS5. We know that. It seems to be PS5 exclusive alongside Sony. I would absolutely love to see Metal Gear Solid, by the way. But Legend of Dragoon would be pretty cool. I didn't get as into Demon's Souls as a lot of people did on the PS3, and I'm leaning more towards either Legend of Dragoon or Metal Gear Solid for myself personally. I think out of the 3, I think a Metal Gear Solid full-on remake would probably get the most hype out of those 3. But I do know there are some big Demon's Souls fans, so I guess let me know what you want to see Bluepoint announce, because I think it's going to happen soon. And we'll finish up with the comment of the day, as you're seeing here. This one is from EU, saying, why would these Switch cards be so expensive, whereas 64GB pen drive SD cards cost like $5 to $7 retail, and in bulk it's likely a third of that? Because they don't want to pay more than $1 or $2 for these cartridges. I mean, seriously, they don't want to pay that much. Blu-rays don't cost a lot now, apparently, with Sony and Microsoft, of course, using those. And I've seen, like Daniel Ahmed has tried to explain this several times. He said that, like, if you look at a 50GB disc, Blu-ray disc, versus a 32GB Switch cartridge, that Switch cartridge is like 60% more than that 50GB Blu-ray. I mean, think about that. You got a Blu-ray that holds a good bit more than the SD card or the Switch cartridge, but the Switch cartridge costs that much more. And the fact that you also have to go through licensing fees with Nintendo, who provides the cartridges and gets all that set up with publishers, there is a lot of hidden cost outside of just the cost of that chip. And that's why a lot of people will look around and say, well, the SD card is like, it's like $10, or like you said, like $8. They don't even want to pay that. They want to pay like $1 or $2 for this stuff. And when they see it being even more cheap or cheaper for Sony and Microsoft with their Blu-ray, they really don't feel like paying that much then, and would rather do what 2K does, which is make you download about 25GB of the game. That's just that they just decided to do it that way. Nintendo has allowed them because they seem to be trying to get this all worked out with Micronix, and it seems like they have. The big thing is, people are real excited about the 64GB cartridge. I think that's fine. The biggest thing is that 32GB specifically getting cheaper. If that can get cheaper, I think at that point they can make some games work that weren't able to before. The Witcher 3 would not have worked without that cartridge, and I do think Nintendo and CD Projekt Red had a bit of an agreement because Nintendo wanted The Witcher 3, but that's just a lot of speculation all around right now when it comes to that. But that's pretty much where we are now. If that 32GB gets cheaper, that'll be big time. But if Nintendo wants to go out and find a game that they are willing to meet halfway with that publisher, I think that could bring a pretty big game over to the Switch possibly, but we'll find out next year or maybe into 2021 when they become more available. Ladies and gentlemen, let's go to here for Newswave. If you enjoyed this video, guys, hit the like button, really helps out. If not, hit the dislike. Leave comments down below about everything we talked about today, whether it's that Final Fantasy VII Remake demo. When do you think it's dropping? Because I'm hoping it's now. I want to play this game so bad. I want to do a video on it. I want to talk about this thing. Final Fantasy VII was one of my favorite PlayStation 1, one of my favorite RPGs growing up, really, when it really hit the stores, and I was flying all over the place trying to find a copy. I ended up renting one. But anyway, let me know about that, guys. When do you think that's going to drop? And then also, what do you think Bluepoint's game is? That's the biggest question now that everyone's trying to figure out. And hopefully they haven't built people up for big disappointment with some I don't know, some off-the-wall game or something. Thanks, guys, for watching, and I'll see you next time.